So I've packed everything that I've learned in the last 4 months of living here in Ho Chi Minh City, plus the last 3 years of actual travel around the entire country. From the bottom of the south all the way up to the north, I've almost done it all. So I've decided to put everything into one complete guide, one complete video for you. Mainly if you want to actually move here to Vietnam, it will help you a hell of a lot. I wish I had this video before I made the move. Or if you just want to do a little bit of short-term travel, a few weeks or even a couple of months, this will help you incredibly. The first thing is a visa. You're definitely going to need that coming into Vietnam. The most common option for you guys is going to be the tourist visa. Now, the standard tourist e-visa is valid for up to 90 days, and I suggest applying directly through the official government portal, evisa.gov.vn. Processing time normally is between 3 to 4 business days, but something very important, during major holidays like Third or even the Western New Year, things might be delayed or the office might be even closed. They should have an update and a notice on the actual website. But just to avoid things like that, I'd suggest getting your e-visa done at least 3 weeks, 2 weeks at a minimum before. Now you can choose a $25 single entry or a $50 multiple entry. So if you're planning just on one visit to Vietnam in those 90 days, get the single entry. But if you want to come back and forth within those 90 days, you might want to go to Thailand or Cambodia and circle back into Vietnam within 90 days, you can get the $50 multiple entry visa. Be sure to make sure the application is 100% accurate. Otherwise, they will just resend it back to you and get you to add the additional information or make the changes, and that can add an additional couple of days onto the length. Now, some countries actually have visa exemptions, so check if yours is on the list. Do note, if you don't hold an official visa, you might not be able to open up a bank account, and if you're looking at staying here long term, that's something that you definitely will need. So these are the countries that are currently visa exempted. However, the visa situation in Vietnam is always getting updated. So this might be out of date by the time you watch this in a couple months or a year. So make sure you double check that, guys. This is probably the most commonly used option. I'll go through a couple of other visas that you can get potentially, but this is the most common. And if you do this, you're only allowed a maximum stay of 90 days. What that means is a lot of people have to then go and do a quick little border run. The main one is actually the Cambodia land border run. A lot of people will just hop on a bus from Ho Chi Minh City or whatever location and take the bus into Cambodia and then come back. I've personally never done this, so if you do want to do this, do a little bit more research or find a visa agency here in Vietnam that is trustworthy. There's a lot of videos on YouTube actually describing into detail how to do this, so you can search that up as well. But this is the most popular and cost-effective option. Now, note, you have to apply for a new visa before re-entry, so make sure you have that. Otherwise, the one that I personally normally do is flying into another country. Obviously, I make YouTube videos and I like to look at a little visa run as essentially just a little mini holiday, a few days or a week. So you can fly to neighboring countries like Thailand, Malaysia, Singapore. So that's an alternative option, a little bit more expensive, obviously, because you're catching a flight rather than the bus. Now, the visa that I'm actually on, and a lot of you guys are probably Viet Gills, so this is something that you're either on or probably should be looking at getting, and that is the 5-year Vietnamese visa exemption. So if you're of Vietnamese descent, i.e. one or both of your parents hold Vietnamese citizenship in past or present, or if you're married to a Vietnamese citizen, you may qualify for Vietnamese visa exemption. Now, this visa is valid for 5 years, allows multiple entries. This lets you stay up to 180 days at a time before needing a quick little border run. I got mine done in Australia for $120, and I went through a Vietnamese run travel agency. They literally got everything done within 2 to 3 days for me. My mum already had a 5-year visa exemption stamped into her passport, and that's all I needed to provide along with my passport in order for them to get that sorted. However, for you, it might be a little bit different if one of your parents doesn't already have that visa exemption. Find a Vietnamese local embassy or a Vietnamese run travel agency experienced with this. Like I've mentioned, if your parents have a passport already with the 5-year visa exemption included, that's essentially all you'd need. However, if you don't have that, perhaps one of your Vietnamese parents' passport if they have that, birth certificate showing that you're their child, application form and payment should be done on site as well. Now, there are probably some additional things that you may or may not need depending on your circumstance. So just find an embassy or find a Vietnamese run travel agency and they should be able to help you out with everything else. Next up is business visas. Now, this visa is for foreigners sponsored by a Vietnamese company. It's essential if you plan on working legally in Vietnam or applying for a temporary resident card, TRC, and allows you to stay up for up to 2 years. The employer should guide you through the entire process. For Requirements often include federal police check from your home country, a health check at a local Vietnamese hospital. Now, this is the extent of my knowledge. I am not the go-to guide on this space. Vietnam are even introducing a 10-year golden visa as well, and that's aimed at attracting long-term tourists, investors, and international professionals. For more insights and my go-to content creator for business and political news is actually Yung Global Business Consulting on YouTube. I recommend going checking him out for more in-depth details on those matters. Another one is actually getting your own Vietnamese passport and probably getting a dual citizenship. Now, if you're born abroad but have Vietnamese parents or grandparents, you may be eligible to reclaim Vietnamese citizenship, which can lead to a passport. The steps involved: your parents must hold or have a Vietnamese passport or citizenship, submit proof of lineage, so birth certificate, parents' Vietnamese documents. You want to apply for the Vietnamese citizenship restoration through a local embassy or consulate. Once approved, you can apply for a Vietnamese passport. Now, depending on the country, you may need to renounce your current citizenship. Like I said, I would not recommend that. So you want to double check if your country allows. So those are the types of visas and potential passport citizenship that you could actually get in order to stay here long term. Next up is the monthly budget breakdown. Obviously, money is going to be a huge factor in over moving to Vietnam and living here long term. This is the most common for expats, this budget breakdown that I have here. This is from either personal experiences or discussions with people who are living the lifestyle themselves. Obviously, if you have more disposable income, you could be living in like penthouses and thousands of dollars, but that's not the norm. The norm is on a budget, 600 USD a month, you can definitely get by and have a good living experience. For me personally, I'm living around that average lifestyle, so about 1200 USD a month. And for a luxury lifestyle, at the minimum 1800 a month. Depending on your lifestyle, these are some good rough ranges for the common expat here. You can definitely even live on way less. Let's say that you're at retiree age or you want to live along the coast of Vietnam, you could probably live towards that budget lifestyle for an even better life experience compared to Ho Chi Minh City. As with all countries, city life tends to be a little bit more expensive. So I'll go through different cities that you might want to live in depending on your current circumstances in a little bit, so stay tuned. So that's how much you need to bring. Now, in terms of money, cash, and banking, when you first move over or when you first travel to any country really, it's a good idea to bring along some cash because cash is still king in Vietnam. However, if you want to live here long term, digital finances is something that you definitely want to consider. So I'll touch on how to open up bank accounts and whatnot in a little bit. But these are the current conversion rates as of 28th of May, Australian dollar to Vietnamese, US dollar to Vietnamese, Canadian dollar to Vietnamese, and euro to Vietnamese. Obviously, as you can tell, the spending power goes a long, long way here in Vietnam, especially if you're coming from the West. So obviously that's an incredible privilege if you're able to earn money in the West in dollars and spend and live here essentially on pennies. Now, in terms of exchanging money, so obviously when you first come here, you're going to have a little bit of cash, and if you want to exchange it for good rates, gold shops are what normally I go to. However, since I've been here for over 4 months, one, I've ran out of Australian dollars, and I found alternatives like withdrawing or just using finances or banking digitally that save me money and save me the hassle of having to go and exchange money. But if you do want to go and exchange money, the best places are normally gold shops. If you literally just search up gold shop or money exchange into Google Maps, a whole host will come up, and they are mostly clustered in District 1. So I recommend just going on Google, searching up that, and you can easily walk between them and compare rates. One of the most popular ones is Ha Tam Jewelry near Ben Thanh Market. Every time I go around to Ben Thanh Market, there is like an entire big line. So I assume that that's probably one of the best rates, but go and shop around. Important tip, your bills need to be in pristine conditions. I'm talking no folds, marks, or tears. These places generally only accept $100 or $50 bills. They might, if you're lucky, accept like a $20 or $10 note, but the rate is going to be significantly reduced. I still withdraw money in Vietnam, and there are only 2 ATMs that I actually recommend. One is VP Bank, and the other is TP Bank. Every other single ATM is going to charge you a overseas withdrawal fee. Important note as well, if it's your first time ever traveling internationally or withdrawing money internationally, I should say, every time that you go to withdraw money with your home debit card, with conversion or without conversion options will come up. Always choose without conversion, because if you choose with conversion, the bank will convert the amount that you want to withdraw for you. They're typically going to skim off a good amount of money, and they're just not going to give you a good rate. Quickly on Vietnamese banknotes, denominations: 500,000, 200,000, 100,000, 50,000, 20,000, 10,000, 5,000, 2,000, 1,000. There is 500 notes as well, but they barely exist these days. So without a Vietnamese bank account, you're solely going to be relying on cash. And cash at times can be an inconvenience. This is why I do recommend, if you're going to be staying here long term, to open up an actual bank account. In relation to like credit card and debit card payments, mainly Visa is accepted in Vietnam, but you're not going to be able to use that every single where you go. Places like supermarkets, nicer restaurants, convenience stores, they will take it. They even take Apple Pay. However, smaller businesses, if you love street food, street vendors, they're obviously going to be either solely cash or QR code payments. That is the big thing here in Vietnam, and I'll touch on that in a little bit. The three most foreigner-friendly banks here in Vietnam is 1, Vietcombank, 2, TP Bank, or 3, what I personally use is Timo Bank. To open up a bank account, like I mentioned, you'll need a valid visa. So I have the 5-year Vietnamese visa exemption. With this visa, I'm able to open up a standard checking account, which I use for rent, online shopping, and QR code payments. QR code payment is essentially a QR code, and through your banking app, you scan theirs, or you can send them yours, and essentially you enter in the amount that is owed, you need to pay, and boom, instant transaction. Now, I will say that the account is slightly limited. I can't send money internationally, nor am I eligible for a debit card. That means the most reliable way to get a full functioning local bank account with card access for services is by having a Vietnamese employer sponsor you for a TRC, or like I mentioned before, getting Vietnamese citizenship. If you have a tourist visa valid for 90 days, you can still actually open up a bank account. However, one thing to note is your visa is only valid for 90 days. Once that expires, from my understanding, you will need to get a new visa, go back to the bank and update that in order to continue using these services. I don't believe the bank closes it, but essentially without a valid visa, you can't use a bank here. Another important thing, if you want to transfer money into your Vietnamese bank account, for me, I use Wise. It basically lets me send money in almost any currency, convert it and transfer it into the account. So essentially I'm sending my Australian dollars from my Australian bank account into Wise, converting that and then sending it into my Timo account. They do take a little service fee. Each month for me, it's about $6, and I'm transferring in like over 10 million Vietnamese dong at a time. Even though they charge a small fee, it's the most reliable and secure way that I have found so far. I'll mention in terms of money, it is possible to live entirely off savings here in Vietnam, especially if you're in your older stages and essentially you've saved up a good sum. But if you're in your early 20s or 30s, a savings might not be able to last you long term if that's something that you want to do here, live long term. I have a friend who in the entire last year has been living off his savings, but is coming to the point now where he has needed to find a job in order to stay here permanently, and I'll touch on jobs in a little bit, or the prospect of having to move back to the US, and that's something that he doesn't want to do. So I'll go through some options soon. So essentially, if you don't have a big ass safety net, it's going to be hard. However, I have met a lot of people living off dividends, of stocks or crypto or day trading essentially. So that's a viable option as well if you're into that space. However, that's not everybody and that might not be you. So having some form of income is essential to stay here long term. And that leads me on to jobs. Common jobs here for expats, because you're going to need to earn some sort of money in order to live here long term. Main job for an expat is going to be teaching English. Teaching English is the most common job essentially for expats here in Vietnam, and honestly it's one of the easiest ways to get started here. That said though, over the last year, competition and job acceptance has become a hell of a lot harder. I've got a couple friends who have been waiting a few months now in order to get accepted for these English teaching jobs, and some places are downsizing as well, so it's a lot more competitive than say a few years ago. Most reputable English teaching centers are ILA, VUS, Apollo or YOLA, and these places on average tend to pay 400,000 to 500,000 Vietnamese dong per hour. After tax, you might be getting anywhere from 350,000 to 400,000 Vietnamese dong, which is about 15 to 17 USD. Some newer or lesser known centers might offer less, or premium schools and international programs might offer slightly more. In terms of lifestyle, full-time is about 20 hours, or you can go part-time, which is about 10 hours as well. Now, if you go for the 20 hours a week, let's say at 380,000 Vietnamese dong an hour, you might be getting about 1,200,000 a month, which is more than enough to live an average lifestyle. And you could even save if you live a little bit more of a budget lifestyle. A lot of my friends who are teaching here actually do the 10 hours, which is sort of part-time. So at 10 hours a week, you might be earning around about 600 USD a month. That is more than enough to actually live here. But if you want to save for the long term, for your future, part-time might not be the way to go. So you might need like additional source of income. What you'll need in order to be able to be teaching is 120 hours of TESOL, TEFL, or CELTA certificate if your degree isn't in education, clean criminal record, valid passport, minimum a year before expiry, or documents will need to be notarized and potentially legalized in Vietnam or your home country. If you are serious about teaching English here in Vietnam, I think Ninja Teacher on YouTube, he does a pretty good job at breaking down and going into insights. He's got his own course, I believe, as well. Doesn't mean you have to sign up, just very, very useful source to understand essentially what teaching English is like here in Vietnam. So that's the most common job. The next up is sponsored jobs or like corporate roles. Yes, it is possible to get a non-teaching job here in Vietnam, but it might be a little bit more competitive. So leading companies can be engineering leads, UX, UI designers, business strategy consulting, and marketing content for international audiences. Salaries really vary. Entry levels can be anywhere from 5 to 7 million. So that's 200 to 300 USD a month. Experience roles can be anywhere from 10 to 20 million a month. 400 to 800 USD. So don't expect Western level incomes, but you don't need to spend a lot here either in order to have a good quality of life. So that might be an option. So my friend here actually recently just got a job as well here in Vietnam, a non-teaching gig. So it is possible. He actually found his new workplace through Indeed Vietnam. So vn.indeed.com, a global platform with Vietnamese specific listings. Another good one is Vietnam Works. So those two are the top 2 websites from my understanding in order for you to search jobs, listings and whatnot. However, a downside, like my friend who's just got this job, he's working US hours. So the US hours and Vietnam hours are essentially flipped. So he's working throughout the entire night. It's a sacrifice he's got to sort of pay in order to live here long term. Remote jobs is another big one. If you can somehow get your employer to let you work overseas, somewhere like Vietnam, Thailand, Philippines, where the cost of living is much lower, whilst you're earning still that Western dollar, that Western income, that would be great. Another option might be running your own business. I've met a lot of expats who just work online. Their business is run digitally. You could do things like drop shipping, freelance, offering coaching or services, or just digital products. This is great. Obviously, once again, you're earning international income whilst cost of living here in Vietnam is dirt cheap. Now, as an international, you can obviously register a business here in Vietnam. I've got absolutely no knowledge on that, unfortunately. Once again, I recommend the Jung Global Business Consulting Group on YouTube. Content creator is the next option. And that's personally what I've been doing. And it's not easy, okay? It's a hell of a lot easier to have a job, you know exactly what you need to do for a day, and they give you a consistent fortnightly, monthly income. However, that is not for me currently in my lifestyle anymore. I enjoy the freedom of not having a 9 to 5 and be able to create content like I do. Now, how I earn my main source of income is YouTube AdSense or sponsorships. Then you have little things like affiliate marketing, freelance creative work if you want to edit other people's videos, do other people's thumbnails, things of that nature. Now, you don't need millions of views, and it's actually so interesting how a lot of people, some of you guys watching now, don't think you can earn enough on YouTube, social media to sustain your living. Definitely do a little bit more research. I'm not saying it's easy, but you don't need millions of views if you know what kind of audience to target, what kind of content to make. So all of that encompassing, that's been able to help me sustain a living and actually save some money as well. So not always having to dip into savings. So that's a good shout. So that's jobs in Vietnam. If possible, I would actually recommend either having a very, very large savings so you can come live here for a few months and decide if it's for you, or have something lined up. Whether it be like a teaching job lined up or some sort of sponsored role, or if you're already a content creator, Vietnam's a great place to come live, earn good money, make good content as well. Next up is housing and accommodation. Obviously, if you're coming to live in Vietnam, you're gonna need a place to live. So where should you live? Obviously closer to the city center, closer to places like District 1. Housing is gonna be more expensive. But if you live out in further districts, more local districts like a District 8, District 10, accommodation will significantly reduce. The following prices are based on a 1-bedroom apartment with washing machine, balcony, bathroom. Obviously you can save by downsizing or sharing a house with other people, or if you want to go to condominiums, 2-3-bedroom apartments, obviously the price is going to rise. Now this is for Ho Chi Minh City. Hanoi probably going to get similar rates, or if you want to live in Da Nang, which I have definitely thought about, by the beach, it's a lot more chill. There is an expat community there already, but accommodation and housing there is a hell of a lot cheaper. There are 3 different types of housing. You can get a traditional house, which is a nhà. That's probably going to be the cheapest option. You get a gang ho, which is a service apartment. That's what I'm in. Or a jungko, which is a high-rise apartment. The most popular districts are District 1, 2, 3, 7, Phu Nhang, and Bình Thanh. Those are the average rent prices. You've got the pros and cons here. You can also stay in districts 4, 5, and 10. Those are a lot more local, however, a lot more chaos, no real expats around, a lot more street food. But if you're on a budget lifestyle, you can definitely save a lot more money out there. Then you've also got places like Tan Binh, Go Vap, Tan Phu, Thu Duc, districts 8, 9, and 12. They're a lot cheaper, but even further away from the city center. They lack that infrastructure and the vibe, especially the social aspect that most foreigners are probably going to be looking for. I personally stay in District 3. I find it's the best sort of positioning in terms of being close to the city center, being close enough to Taojing where a lot of social events happen, and also being close enough to the airport. Now, finding a place to live and the process of it, okay? I personally found mine through Facebook groups. So I had a friend of mine essentially just post listings on a bunch of Facebook groups. I think expats for foreigners or like apartments for rent in Saigon, apartments for rent in Ho Chi Minh City. You literally just list out your desired district, your budget, and the amenities that you're looking for. And literally within half an hour, a whole bunch of real estate agents hit up my friend who did the listing for me. There are also rental websites as well. I've only personally used Bat Dong San, and we also posted a listing on that. And once again, got a whole bunch of real estate agents showing me listings. Be cautious. Scams happen everywhere in Vietnam, and real estate agents are one of the biggest scams here in Vietnam, unfortunately. So if possible, bring a local friend or someone that speaks Vietnamese. I'm so thankful that I had this friend who is a local. She did all the negotiations for me in Vietnamese, so I was able to get a realistic price at a local rate. Now, little tips before you commit. I would suggest booking a hotel or Airbnb. That's what I did in the area that I was interested in first. Spend a few days exploring the neighborhood vibe before signing a long-term lease. Things you must know before renting. Never sign a lease without viewing in person. Message multiple agents, get a price comparisons. Don't be loyal to one. Videos and photos can be fake or outdated. This is a huge one. So obviously inspect the place yourself. Negotiate everything. Foreigners, unfortunately, are probably going to get quoted a higher price, especially if you're doing the negotiations. As an example, this place that I went to look at now was close to that 11 million mark, and then additional expenses came up to like 300K for water and management fees. But when we negotiated, we were able to bring that down to 9.6 million inclusive of all fees except electricity. You always have to pay electricity yourself. So negotiation, that is key when you go to look at these places. That's why it's so important to like ask around or have a local help you out. Standard lease terms, 6 to 12 months. Obviously, the longer the contract, the better the deal. Always get a written contract. Ask for an English version too. Things to do when you're checking apartments. Does the unit have hot water? Is there good air conditioning? Is there a mold smell? Are there leaks? Are there working appliances? Is there hot water if that's something that you're looking for? How is the neighborhood? Is there freaking chickens or dogs roaming the streets barking at night? Do people play karaoke morning to night there? Some other things to note. Electricity is usually charged at 3,000 to 4,500 Vietnamese dong per kilowatt. On average being 4,000, that's what I personally pay. And you calculate it at the end of the month. Water bill, generally 100K to 200K per month per person. Mine is 100K, but I got that included in the negotiation. Service management fee, if you have like a gym, pool, security, this can actually range anywhere from 200K to 1 million, depending on where you stay. I personally pay 200K. I'm in the service apartments, so it's a lot cheaper. Deposits and contracts. Once you choose a place, the agent or landlord will prepare a lease for you. Usually in Vietnamese, request an English version. The lease should clearly state monthly rent, additional fees, length of agreement, also security deposit that should be stated on there as well. Usually this is anywhere from 1 to 1.5 months. So I paid 1.5 month deposit and you get that back at the end of the lease. Very important, in my contract at least, it stated that you must let the landlord know 30 days prior to the contract being expired that you don't want to continue. And if you don't mention it, it just continues for another 12 months. So there's little things in the contracts you want to make sure of. So if you get anything more than 1.5 or 2-3 months deposit, that is a red flag. Do not pay that in full. Make sure it's 1 to 1.5 months. I have heard horror stories of landlord essentially scamming people and not giving back that deposit. That's like 13, 15, 20 million gone. A good idea is to do a bank transfer so you've got a digital record. That's why it's so important to actually have a bank account. And every month I pay my essential rent through to the landlord online. You can pay cash. that feels a little bit more dodgy to me, so I suggest getting a bank account. One final thing is actually registering your stay with the police. Once I moved in, paid the deposit, my landlord actually did this for me. He registered me with the local police. It's standard practice here as well. And sometimes they might need to hold onto your passport for a day. That's pretty normal. I didn't have to. My landlord already had all the documentation and photos of my passport. So it's super easy to find a rental place here in Vietnam. Just be cautious. Red flags about real estate agents, viewing the place yourself and deposit and whatnot, but it is very simple. Next up is health and safety whilst you travel and live abroad long term. So when you're starting a new life abroad or just traveling in general, something that often people forget about is actually their health and safety. I've met a lot of travelers and expats who actually don't have any form of travel medical insurance. Personally for me, I was one of those people until I had a little bit of an awakening and I realized I needed to be a lot more cautious. The adventures that I go on specifically that can be quite daring and out there put a little bit of scare into me. So ever since then, over the last couple of years, I've been using Safety Wing as my backup. Now, if you're doing a short trip, their Nomad Insurance Essential Plan is solid. I've used this plenty of times. It covers stuff like unexpected injuries, illnesses, hospital visits, trip delays, all the core stuff that you're going to be looking for. But if you're living abroad long-term like me, honestly, their new complete plan is an even better fit. It covers routine checkups, mental health support, wellness therapy, and even serious things like cancer treatment. Plus all the little things like luggage delays, accommodation cancellations, and even cases of burglary. What I love is the fact that it works in over 170 countries. So if you bounce in between countries like I do, let's say 6 months in Vietnam and the other 6 months elsewhere, you can toggle on and off the coverage and cancel at any time. And if you want to go back and visit your home country, it actually covers that as well. So for me, Australia, if I wanted to return, I've got full coverage there too. So if you're traveling short term, the essential plan is what I would recommend. But if you want to live and stay safe abroad full term, the complete plan's got your back. QR code is in the corner. Go and check that out. Links in the description as well. Stay safe whilst you're living abroad or traveling, guys. Let's flow on from travel medical insurance, health and safety, onto health and well-being, guys. Food poisoning. If you opt to eat at street food or even restaurants, in Asia in general, to be honest, I don't want to isolate Vietnam, you can unfortunately get sick from it. The food standard and quality is just not the same as the West, because with cheap sometimes comes at an alternative cost. But if it's your first time traveling and you're used to that Western world hygiene, you're probably going to get sick. You're just going to have to deal with it and build up that immunity. Beware of tap water if possible as well. I've even tried boiling tap water here before and drinking it. I do that back in Australia. The water tastes good. Here, don't recommend doing it. There's a weird ass taste to it, so you can't do that here. Touching on water, obviously if you live in here long term, if you can in your accommodation get like that filtered tap, that would be ideal. That'd be great. The water comes filtered. One of my friends has that and the water tastes perfect. But if you can't get that, alternative option is you can buy like the big bottles, 1.5 liters or 5 liter waters at the convenience stores. But I would recommend going to aquacool.vn, getting these 20 liter massive tubs. That way it's only 42,000 for like 20 liters, and that should last you many, many weeks. So this is more of a general guide. If you want a deeper dive into actual cost of living breakdowns and alternatives on where to shop, what waters to buy, what restaurants to go to, just how to save money, cost of living video here, link there, or wait to the end. I'll put the link at the end too. Heat exhaustion is something you want to be careful of coming over here as well. If you're from like the UK where it's super cold, even Melbourne, Australia where it's cold like 8 months out of the year, come in and move in here, you're going to need some time to adjust to the weather. So things like putting pink Himalayan salt into your water to stay hydrated with higher sodium, coconut water, or just staying out of the heat during the day until your body adjusts. That's a big thing because heat stroke and dehydration is a real thing that you want to be careful of. It definitely took me like, I'd say at least minimum 2 months to adjust to it. When I'd first step outside, when I first got here, I would be sweating immediately. Whereas now I can walk through a bit of the heat and it takes me 30 minutes, an hour to start really sweating. I'm a lot more acclimatized and it's something that you're gonna have to get used to, especially in Ho Chi Minh City, especially in the south where it's a lot hotter and dry than central highlands or north of Vietnam. Air pollution as well, mainly in the north, mainly in Hanoi. Hanoi is like the most polluted city in the world. The air up there is terrible. Air pollution down here does suck as well. Some things like an air purifier in your room, that helps. Little things like wearing a mask whilst you drive as well to stop all the bike exhaust and the air pollution just going all over your face. And air pollution is huge, and obviously pre-existing conditions, that's not gonna improve over here. You might need some adjusting. At least here, if you wanna live in Da Nang or something by the coast, obviously with the ocean, the air circulation is a hell of a lot better. Less people live out there as well. But if you like the city life, That's something you're going to have to get used to because it does, and it is going to decrease your quality of life. Pharmacy as well. Pharmacies that are called Nhà Thuốc here in Vietnam, they're literally like a convenience store. They're on every single corner here pretty much, at least in the city. And the great thing is Vietnam is all about convenience. You don't need to go to a GP or your doctor to get a prescription. You can actually just go straight into the store, tell them your existing conditions or what you need or what you have, and they can prescribe you on the spot. Dentist is another one. In Vietnamese, it's called Nha Khoa, and a teeth cleaner is like the cheapest rate. It could be 250,000. Make sure that you go to a relatively reputable one. So next up is phone plans, okay? Two options. One is an eSIM. Straight off the bat, I'm not going to recommend an eSIM for long-term travel because you're going to need a number, and I'll explain why you'll need a number in a little bit, but you need one. So eSIM is an option, but don't go for them. The other option is obviously a physical SIM card. And do not, if possible, buy a SIM card at the airport, because at the airport, what I learned out the hard way is they buy them in batch under fake names, essentially, burner SIMs really, and they are sold around about potentially double the price of what you'd pay in a physical store. Instead, once you land, if possible, use your phone's data roaming. Not everyone has data roaming, but if you can, use it for a little bit in order to order a Grab ride, which is essentially Uber here. Once you're at your accommodation, go out and get your own proper SIM card. If you don't have data roaming, one, you can get your hotel to organize a pickup service. They won't be that expensive. If you have a family especially, that might be useful. Then once you get to your hotel, go and get a SIM. Or if you really do need to, and I've done this before, get a super short term, like a day or 3-day SIM card, pay dirt cheap, just to have a little bit of internet and a phone number in order to get transportation to your accommodation, and then go to an actual carrier store. The places I would recommend is the Gia Di Dong store. It's nationwide. It's a proper trustworthy phone retailer, or go to the actual carrier branch. That's what I did. And the two branches that I recommend are Viettel, that's the best nationwide coverage, or Mobifone. Mobiphone's a cheaper alternative, and it also gives you rolling data plan for some options. So if you want your data to roll over, that's a good option. So I personally pay $150,000 a month for 6 gigs of data, calls, and text. You probably don't need that. I do content creation. I need a lot of gigs. I like that safety net, but you probably need less. You could even get 1, 2, 3 gigs and save a lot of money. When you go in, make sure you have your passport with you. That's essentially all you need. They'll set up everything, and I just paid for 3 months up front, so I paid $450,000. You can get shorter or longer term for the entire year as an example. Next up is essential apps. So every single application on your phone that you need in order to make your life a hell of a lot more convenient here in Vietnam. First, transportation and delivery. So Grab is what I would recommend. It is ride hailing, so think Uber, and also food delivery. And you can even get parcel service delivery. You also have B, which is the alternative to Grab, ride hailing, food delivery, and often cheaper than Grab as well. Sun SM, it's a newer, more modern ride-hailing app with electric cars or bikes. So it's eco-friendly and potentially cheaper than Grab as well. And obviously Google Maps, you should have that downloaded on your phone already. If you move to Vietnam and you live here long-term and you have your own motorbike, I suggest changing your app location. So if you have an iPhone App Store, change your geolocation to Vietnam and then delete Google Maps and re-download it. That will give you the option of selecting motorbike on the actual app when you're going from point A to point B. Because before I had that, it didn't come up. My App Store location was under Australia, and that's where I downloaded Google Maps. That only let me see the option for car. So I was driving maybe 5 minutes longer than I needed to be. For all these apps, you'll need a phone number. That's why you need that phone number to be under your name. That's why you need to go into an actual carrier branch or the Gia Di Dong store, get a proper SIM card under your name. The next app is communication. Zalo, this is the most popular local messaging app used by locals for everything from chatting to business conversations. Other ones might be Viber, WhatsApp, Messenger, or Instagram as well. Translation app that helps, Google Translate or ChatGPT. I personally like ChatGPT because it actually gives you more natural conversational translations over the more formal ones that you might get through Google Translate. Next up is social. I highly recommend using Facebook here. In the West, I barely use it. In Asia and Vietnam specifically, I'm using it basically daily again. It's great for Facebook Marketplace, renting apartments. I really personally use it for networking. So you can join expat groups, social social event outings. They're essentially listed on Facebook, so you can go in and join a group and just see what's going on. Next up is shopping e-commerce. The number one shopping e-commerce app is Shopee. Once again, you'll need to have your geolocation or app store location set to Vietnam in order to download Shopee. If you don't want to do that, Lazada is the alternative. Lazada is another popular platform for online shopping, and you can download that one without the location. Another app or subscription I'd recommend is getting a VPN. Vietnam does block some sites. I'm not sponsored, but I personally use Surfshark. It's like 60 USD for the entire year. It's so dirt cheap, and it lets me access blocked or restricted websites, and I find that it does help me with like privacy. With these cafes, Vietnam has a great digital infrastructure, but I have been scammed or frauded my card a few times in Vietnam over the last couple of years that I've been traveling. It's whenever I use like public Wi-Fi, unfortunately. That's why I've got a VPN now, just an extra layer of security. Another good app that I just recently learned about is Lang Chao. This is like a pharmaceutical app. On there, you can actually speak to like a local GP and get prescriptions and medications that you need delivered to you. It is mainly in Vietnamese. I haven't found like an alternative that has English on it, but Google Translate, you can get by. So if you're super sick, especially at home, you're living by yourself, you can communicate with a doctor and they can send you pretty much the medication to your doorstep. Next up is transportation, okay? Now the main thing that you're probably gonna do, and what I have done personally, is rent your own motorbike. If you're gonna stay here long term, like minimum 12 months, buying a bike is probably gonna be the smartest option, but I'm currently renting, I might look at buying in future. The thing with buying though is because I'm not a citizen, I cannot legally put it under my name, so I might have to put it under like a cousin or an auntie or an uncle's name. That's a little bit more of a hassle. Now the truth is, majority of these expats, they do drive without an actual license. So if you get pulled over by the police, I won't speak too much on it, but one, you might be able to bribe them, but two, if they're like proper legit, they might impound it, charge you a massive fine. So that is the risk that you do run. Now, if you want to drive legally here, you got to get a Vietnamese license. It's an A1 for 125cc scooters and below, and a B1 for cars. You'll probably need to convert your current motorbike or car license into a Vietnamese license as well. Now, the government's always changing these rules, and if you ask locals, they might actually have no idea, so do a little bit more research. Or the best option is to go to a legitimate motorbike rental place. Someone like DC Motorbikes, they can actually help you and give you the solutions if you want to attain a Vietnamese motorbike license. The alternative, what I would recommend, get either an electric bike or a 50cc. Obviously, it's going to be lower. I think the max it goes to is 50 kilometers, but you can drive those legally here. You don't need to worry about licensing or like issues with the police, 50cc or an electric bike. But if you opt out of driving a scooter or a bike, Grab, B, Sun SM, the applications I mentioned before, those are the best options for essentially getting taxis or motorbikes at a cheap rate. Next up is weather in Vietnam. This is a reason why a lot of people like to move out here, for the warmer climate. Vietnam in general is a very tropical and humid climate, but if you do like that colder environment, there are some alternatives in Vietnam that you could stay in. Southern Vietnam, where I'm currently and where a majority of the expats move, is Ho Chi Minh City. Consistently humid, averaging 30 to 40 degrees year round. Two main seasons, generally dry December to April, and then rainy season May to early October. It's important to note that between late September to November is a transition period, so less rain, cooler evenings, but still hot. It rarely gets cold, and the humidity can get super intense. Northern Vietnam, Hanoi is probably where you're mainly going to be staying if you're going to live up there. There's a lot more variation in seasons, so winter is like December, February, it can drop to like 10 to 15 degrees, foggy and cold. Spring, March to April, so it's more mild, humid, warmer weather, increasing humidity. May to August is more of a summer. It's hot but wet. Humid, 32 to 38 degrees, can be heavy rain and thunderstorms. And then autumn is in September to November-ish. It's a lot cooler and drier, more pleasant temperature, less rain. It's considered the best season. Central Highlands, one place in particular, it might be my favorite city in Vietnam, is Dalat. I've met some expats that live there, but it's more of a local holiday destination for locals. But the weather here, it's dry season between November to April. It averages 15 to 24 degrees, lots of sunshines and chilly mornings. Rainy season, May to October, frequent rains in the afternoons, and it's lush green scenery. Dalat is like where a lot of farming happens, coffee plantations, so the scenery there is beautiful. And then obviously you've got the coastal cities like Da Nang and Nha Trang, which is mainly for where a lot of foreigners go, or Vũng Tàu, which is where locals like to go. Dry season is generally from Feb to August, average temperatures of 28 to 34 degrees Celsius, hottest months June to August. Then you do have rainy season too, September to January normally, average temperatures from 22 to 28 degrees Celsius, coolest months being December to January. The ocean breeze keeps things so much cooler, even though it might be a 38-40 degree day. You definitely have cleaner air and more stable weather. And obviously the beach life is going to be an absolute pro, and the life is a slower pace out there than a Hanoi or Ho Chi Minh City. So the best cities in Vietnam for expats to live in, and where I personally live, is Ho Chi Minh City, aka Saigon. This is the hustle and hub of the country. Vietnam's largest and most modern city. It is fast-paced, full of opportunities. This is where essentially all of the nightlife is. It's really made for co-workers, workers and businesses in general. Strong expat community, especially in District 1, 2, Thao Dien, 3, Binh Thanh, Phu Nhang. It's ideal for remote workers, entrepreneurs, digital nomads, or those who like the big city energy. Another option might be Hanoi. This is the cultural capital of the country. It's a capital city, rich in history, traditional Vietnamese culture. It's more conservative and structured compared to Saigon. There is a strong job market for English teachers and professionals. Best for those who enjoy seasonal weather, local experiences, and more of the cultural immersion. Da Nang City, this was my secondary option if I wanted to move to more of a chill beach lifestyle. That's where I would have moved, and that's where potentially I might move in future. But this is a coastal city with modern infrastructure, lower cost of living than Hanoi and Ho Chi Minh City, a lot more of a relaxed vibe. Cleaner air, less traffic, easy to access the beaches. It's best for expats who want nature, beach life, and affordability. There is a hell of a lot of digital nomads and expats who have moved out there in the last year because cost of living is so cheap there and quality of life is incredible. For me, I'd personally either recommend Ho Chi Minh City, Saigon, if you're trying to build something, if you want more of that fast-paced city lifestyle. But if you want to chill out, have a lot more of a relaxed lifestyle living, Da Nang is the place to go. Packing essentials. Me personally, when I moved to Vietnam, I packed super light, literally a 20 kilo suitcase and also a 7 kilo backpack carry-on. For me, I brought like a few t-shirts, some shorts, some long pants. All of my electronics were the most heaviest items. Obviously, my laptop, camera, all that sort of gear, hard drives, that weighed down a lot of things. And the reason why I did that is because in Vietnam, at least in Ho Chi Minh City, everything is accessible. You can get super dirt cheap items, electronics online. Go in store, there's Uniqlo, that's basically where I shop. We can go to the markets for cheap clothing as well. Everything in the city life you can get here. But a few key items, considering you already might have these in your home country, these are what I would bring. Essentials like travel adapters. Vietnam uses type A, C, and D plugs, power banks, sunscreen, hat, and bug spray. UV protective clothing, like a lightweight jacket, long pants. When you move here, you realize how important long pants and long shirts are. When I first moved here, I was always wearing like t-shirts or singlets and shorts, but as I'm driving on a motorbike, one, it's probably not the safest, and two, you tan really quickly and the heat here is not good. Like I go dark as hell within like half an hour. So I want that UV protective clothing. If you have respiratory issues, asthma inhaler is gonna be beneficial. The air quality can take some adjusting. I have personally needed to bring mine. When I was a lot younger, I had respiratory issues, so I needed to use like a Ventolin or an asthma pump, so I still have that just in case. Like basic medication as well, painkillers, diarrhea tablets, ibuprofen. You can get these here in Vietnam as well, but if you already have it, you can bring it along. Obviously some cash, your passport, photocopies of your passport, your home country's driver's license as well. Some financial essentials, like I brought 2 credit cards and 3 debit cards just in case. On the credit card front, preferably a Visa. And for my debit card, I try and get overseas no transaction fees. Safety and crime. A lot of you guys have been asking, Dave, is it super safe? And yes, Vietnam in general is super safe. There's no like crazy murders or anything of that nature, but petty theft is something you do wanna be cautious of. I've seen petty theft. They mostly happen on motorbikes driving by and snatching like a purse or a phone right out of your hands. They are gone by the time that you're able to turn around and try and see the number plate. I have a bum bag or like a shoulder strap bag. That is a lot harder to take off. If you're having a purse in one hand, that might be a lot easier. Or little things like holding your phone or camera out in public, especially along busy roads where a bike would just drive by and snatch it off. And also like chains and necklaces, not a smart idea to wear expensive jewelry and stuff out here. So little things like just being cautious late at night, staying in well-lit areas, and just don't go along and around flaunting that you have a lot of cash and expensive stuff. That just obviously makes you a super target, but that happens in, I'd say, around the entire world. But like major crimes and stuff like that, very, very rare. Other things like foreign attacks, that's pretty common as well. Now that I've been here for a bit under 4 months, I know the ins and outs and I know, how to navigate conversations. I know how to spot a scam a mile away, essentially. If it's your first time in Asia specifically, you want to be cautious of who you communicate with, because especially in the South, a lot of people seem very nice and seem very warm, which they are, but sometimes these conversations have always resulted in, hey, I'm offering this services, or do you want to buy this, etc. So just be wary, be cautious of things like that. Foreign attacks like street vendors, real estate agents, if they know that you're not from here, they potentially will add a little bit of a higher tax onto you because that's just extra money for them. So good rule of thumb, ask for prices up front or have a local come with you for like rental property, things of that nature, or just do due diligence. Find places if you go to a restaurant with menus and prices already set, check the reviews as well, just little things like that. And then over the months as you live here, like you have your common places where you want to go to eat and shop at, so you know the ins and outs. And a big one is honestly just buy some stuff online, grab food delivery, Shopee, Lazada for like purchases. That saves you a lot more money and a lot more hassle of having to negotiate if you need to bargain. Networking is huge out here, like making friendship groups as well. For me, that was the biggest thing for me. I was scared that I wasn't going to be able to make friends and whatnot because I'm a lot more of an introvert. But coming into Vietnam, there are so many more people that resonate, share similar stories. They come back here for the motherland. They come back here. Do I want to meet other expats? They want to make friends with the locals. It's just a lot easier to make friends and socialize here in Vietnam than the West, I find. You've got so many social groups. Facebook, use Facebook, guys. You might see me at some of these meetings and social events. Expats, foreigners in Ho Chi Minh City, Da Nang or Hanoi if you're from there. Just search up events in Saigon, events in whatever city you're in, and a whole bunch will come up. It's so easy to form cliques. If you go to a gym, if you go to like MMA, boxing, jiu-jitsu gym, it's easy to make friends there. Pickleball, badminton, you can make friends easily at those sporting groups. Or social media as well, you know. I've had a lot of you guys hit me up on DMs or YouTube comments, and I don't meet up with everybody. I just don't have the bandwidth for that. I try and meet up with people here and there for coffee. I've sort of found my clique and my close circle of friends here now. I tend to now hang out with them. But if you want to try and meet me, come out, check out some of these volunteer groups that I'm with at like Vietnam Heart or some of the main social Facebook groups as well. I thought I'd include this because they might be helpful to you, but like emergencies, emergency services, police, fire department, ambulance/medical, tourism support hotline, traffic police. The numbers are there, but the big one is embassy support. You see, last year I had a fantastic motorbike trip from Saigon all the way to Hanoi, but unfortunately I did something very stupid and I lost my passport along with all my bank cards and stuff on the trip. So thankfully, I'm from Australia. You might be from the UK, Canada, America. There will be an embassy here in the country, so getting a replacement passport was no issue for me. It was just very time consuming. It took like 2 weeks in total, if not 3 weeks, to get everything sorted. So if you lose your passport, you need official documents or require embassy assistance, support is available. So if you lose your passport, you need official documents or just embassy support in general. They should be very easy to access. There should be a hotline or an actual physical embassy that you can go to, mainly in Ho Chi Minh City and Hanoi. A quick Google search should give you all the details. One thing to be wary of as well is these embassies, they tend to take bookings, and on average it's 2 to 3 weeks for a new slot. I had to personally wait 2 weeks in order to get and book a spot in order to renew my passport. Useful phrases and language. In the main cities, the major cities, Ho Chi Minh City, Da Nang, you can get by with English, but it goes a long way speaking a little bit of Vietnamese, especially saying hello and thank you. I always see it warm the soul of the actual local that hears it. It's something like they can be so happy about. So those little things are cool. If you're staying here long term, might be useful to learn even like actual sentences and phrases. But some little ones that you want to probably know is, this is catered towards the foreigners, I should mention, but hello is xin chào. That's a polite greeting. Thank you is cảm ơn, always appreciated by locals, just saying thank you. No is không. Yes is yeah. So you can just say yes, to be honest. How much is bao nhiêu? This is especially if you want to go to markets, bargain. A little cool, funny one. Too expensive, you should say mắc quá, but do it with a smile and they'll laugh, and then you can sort of negotiate for a cheaper price. So mắc quá, if something is like out of your budget. A good one is I don't understand is tôi không hiểu or em không hiểu. It's good when you're confused, so that way they can try an alternative way to communicate with you. That is my complete guide to starting your new life here in Vietnam. This should cover 99% of the basis. Even if you just want to travel here for a month or two, it's going to help so much. I wish I had this when I first moved to Vietnam. It would have helped save me so much headaches, and I would have saved money as well if I knew some of this stuff. If you got your own insights, please drop them in the comments below. Help each other out. Let's build a community. I love the Vietnam culture, and I just want to now give back my learnings and my experiences to help you guys enjoy your travels or living here long term too. And if you're still figuring things out, guys, I've got a pros and cons of living in Vietnam. This actually might influence your decision on whether you want to live here long term. But honestly, just come live here for a couple of weeks, a month, a few months, get a vibe, because this might not be for you. And then if you want the intricacies of how I've been able to save a lot more money in cost of living, I give recommendations and alternatives on where to shop and just guide you on how to live a very amazing lifestyle here for the cheap too. So these two videos might help you out as well, guys.